Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. I'm going to get things started with this week's X-Men books and Avengers books. Kicking things off with Hellions at number 7. Where we left off, the Hellions had been killed. 4 of them in Krakow after walking through the Avalon Gate. The rest in Morocco. And those who were killed on Krakoa were killed by none other than Mr. Sinister himself. Though, that is something he is not telling others. So, the issue begins at the council, presumably before the conclusion of Ten of Swords, with Sinister making an impassioned plea to resurrect his team, though it's already been approved, according to Kate and Emma. Though Emma is watching the whole show with glee, calling it a breathtaking lack of shame. In the hatchery, something, however, has happened with 2 of the resurrected, with some of the Hellions. First off, Orphan Maker. Orphan Maker's mutation is rather devastating, and so his suit, the suit he wore, prevented it from manifesting. And so they basically need to keep his pod in stasis and potentially even and make sure his X gene never fully expresses itself. It's added that Xavier adds that he refuses to see any mutant's abilities as anything less than a gift, but Peter has a curse, which is all he says on the matter. Well, he has a curse and he mustn't share it with the world. However, 2 of the others, Wild Child and Nanny, appear to be rather eager, on edge, kind of more focused, so to speak. In the White Palace, Havoc is trying to convince Emma to let him leave the team, or to pull him from the Hellions, which he insists is for his own good, in part because of everything that's happened with his mind. And she adds that for now, just trust the council that it's safer that he remain among the Hellions, for everyone's sake. Back on Bar Sinister, Quanon, Greycrow, and Empath have also all been resurrected. However, as they died on Krakoa, they are as they were. Greycrow welcomes back Wildchild, explaining that Wildchild's looking good. Sinister welcomes back his deceased team, and then passes along a mission. Apparently, there are schematics for another suit of armor similar to the one that Peter, Orphan Maker, wears in Nanny's ship, which is being held by the Right. The anti-mutant group, that is. However, Havoc returns and quite pointedly asks Sinister how the hell he got them all killed. Which is something Greycrow would really like to know, as would Empath. However, Quanon, Psylocke, prevents them. As the rest of the team leaves and heads to the scramjet, we learn just what it is that Sinister has on Quanon. Her daughter. And thanks to the events of Fallen Angels, Quanon, or Sinister, has Apoth, meaning he has the mind of Qui-Gon's daughter. So the team sends Sinister head to the Wright's base in the scramjet. And Greycrow is seriously impressed with Wildchild. Asks him if he feels different, and Wildchild says that he does. There's fire in his blood. It spurs him forward to rend, to hunt, to find a she-wolf and grow his pack. And, well, Greycrow laughs and says, "My man did come back different." And he's digging it. Empath thinks the whole thing's weird, but Havoc then goes and asks Qui-Gon just what the hell happened with Sinister and her and Sinister. But she sets the jet in a trajectory and suggests that Alex and the team make their way to the escape pod. They do, and the jet crashes into the Wright's base, destroying it, basically breaking through the concrete barrier. When they're faced with a pair of fully automated Smileys. You may remember Smileys from various X-Men stories over the years, but they wear power armor with shoulder-mounted cannons. Usually there's a man inside of them, but these are, like I said, automated. They are also, their headpieces are designed to have a large grin on their faces. Nanny and Wildchild take out the two Smileys, and rather promptly. Actually, kind of surprising Havoc and impressing Empath. However, well, where there's the Wright, there's of course Cameron Hodge. And he comes out with flanked by a couple more Smileys, saying that he knows how mutants love to murder the pure human race. Not that he's one to really talk about purity, as he did inject himself with a technovirus, but hey, what's technovirus between enemies, right? And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next title. X Factor number 5. Where we left off in X Factor, the team had gotten the remains of Wind Dancer from Mojo World. They had encountered some of the former ex-allies that are stuck in Mojo World, namely Shatterstar. And, yeah. So we begin on Mojo World weeks ago on the set of in the live streaming studio home of Adam X, the Extreme, and his Adam X's Hot Seat live stream. There's a camera pointed at Wind Dancer, and he asks if she's sure about what she just said. And he says, he can simply say there was a short in the feed, give her time to escape. He could even get a patsy to take this shot so there's no brains. No one would ever know they aren't. So there are brains. And no one would ever know that they weren't hers. But she says this is what the viewers voted for, and she just wants to get home. So better to give the people what they want. And he shoots her in the head, killing her, giving the 5 proof of death. It's then added that, however, as this is fairly soon after Ten of Swords, The rest of X Factor is unaware of what happened with Rockslide in another world. But eventually, the next day, they do they resurrect Wind Dancer. One thing that has also been stated is that all of the Spiral, Extreme, Atom X, Shatterstar all need to be rescued from Mojoverse as well. Prestige goes to talk to the new Rockslide, trying to use her chronoskimming to move to the beginning of his timeline, and he gets thrown against the wall telekinetically. And it's explained that she basically hit the end. She basically hit the end of a film strip, and it spit her back out of his head, and she got spit out of his head. So he's basically Rockslide is only about a week old. Boy is hugs Rockslide and heads out. Wind Dancer is then resurrected with the other new X-Men waiting for her. Proteus explains to Hope that it's every time they bring back a flyer who died depowered, their first instinct is always flying. We see Elixir, we see Wind Dancer. There's another one and I can't tell who it is. But yeah. So the new X-Men have a little get together at the Boneyard. I've always suggested that maybe they, put the table to shop talk for the night, so that the new X-Men can, grieve and celebrate. Danny Moonstar goes to talk with Emma Frost, who's been basically waiting outside. Especially when it comes to the new X-Men, she feels very guilty. They were among her students. I'm sure she feels. I would honestly say I would be shocked if she doesn't feel the same way towards the old school Hellions as well. Okay, maybe not Empath. Empath's kind of a jerk, but the rest of them. So they have a bit of a reunion, and then we also get a kind of a rundown of what's what with the Boneyard. Dakin sketches, does charcoal rubbings of Aurora's face on his wall. Apparently Bling and Mercury are a thing, which is cool. They meet a mutant who has an advanced form of acoustic kinesis, who gets a different power based off the music he's listening to. Any music. Prestige also texts Dazzler saying Dazzler's going to love the kid, which is likely true. There's a brief exchange between Aurora and Dakin. Also, there's a mysterious email that was sent to Northstar that Prodigy's been asked to trace. Later on the roof of the Boneyard, the Bobiers, Northstar and Aurora meet. Northstar goes to take his sister's hand, but she reminds him they can't do that. However, Northstar explains that she's in a brand new body. And Sasquatch's genetic experiments wouldn't carry over unless she wanted them to. And he asked to make sure. And so, when they touch, she creates an actual Aurora, which the members of X Factor take in. Rockslide sees it and something says, "Beautiful." And that is where... Actually, that's not quite where the issue ends. There's a sudden scream, and Siren is found dead at the foot of the Boneyard. appearing to have fallen, which is strange, seeing as how Siren can fly. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book, Savage Avengers number 15. Where we left off, well, 2 issues ago, Doctor Strange had summoned forth a group of more brutal heroes to go after Kulan Goth and split them into 2 sub-teams. Last issue, we got Magic, Conan, as well as their new recruits from them, Black Knight and Juggernaut, going after a red dragon, a Norse red dragon in Bruges. Now we get Wolverine, Black Widow, and Damian Hellstrom going after a drug cartel. And it should be noted that before they left, 2 issues ago, when they were discussing the mission itself, Black Widow stated that with these guys, as this cartel is poisoning cocaine, it's kind of right up the Punisher's alley. So the issue begins in Ramirez, Veracruz. What's left of the law enforcement is fighting off a siege of the Shumagorath-possessed users. But the Punisher saved the day. Yes, they got the Punisher. Also on the strike team is Elektra. So they make their way to the... it's explained that the local cartel was the victim of a hostile takeover. Some kind of weird death cult took over the mansion and all the business. And so the team attacks the mansion, killing the acolytes of Kulan Goth. Wolverine and Punisher are tasked with dealing with all of them outside, while Black Widow, Elektra, and Hellstrom go inside to take care of the actual drugs. Black Widow uses her feminine wiles to distract the cultists. Though, to be fair, she need not do so, as Elektra was already sneaking up on them and took them both down, telling the women working on packing the drugs to take all the monies that belongs to them and that the men belong to them. However, the Priest of Sickles has been awakened has been informed of the invasion. And Hellstrom and Elektra managed to take him down, or stop him at least briefly. Then Punisher shoots the hell out of him for, digging up his family, and then Wolverine punches through his heart and chucks the body into a wood chipper head first. And then Hellstrom uses Hellfire on the remains. The girls who were packing the drugs make their way out, having taken money and any other valuables, including some of the pets. Wolverine found some not blood-soaked clothing and some booze, and hopes that and mentions that the other team has had as much luck as they did. And, well, it would seem maybe not, as the dragon in its human form has taken down Juggernaut, Black Knight, and Conan, and seemingly also is seemingly about to take down Magic, though she claims the fight's not over yet. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book, Black Widow #4. Now, I'll go ahead and say this. Writer Kelly Thompson made a point of saying on Twitter, I think yesterday or Monday, that to keep in mind that this is not a final issue, or this is the fourth part of a 5-part story, and so yeah. I actually said to her that I'd hold off on Torches and Pitchforks, but let me just say, after this issue, oh man. That was it's really hard not to just say, hey, you know what? Roundup's postponed. I got to get some torches and pitchforks. So where we left off, Black Widow had been kidnapped weeks ago, and was now living the life of an architect in San Francisco, with his fiancée and a child. And through blind luck, Hawkeye, Winter Soldier, and then Yelena Belova managed to find her, and all headed to San Francisco. Hawkeye and Winter Soldier went together. Yelena went as well. They eventually crossed paths and decided to join forces. And we discover that Arcade was hired to place her in a scenario. And among those involved are Viper and Hydra, Red Guardian, and a few others. However, one of them, Weeping Lion, doesn't want Black Widow to have to live in a cage, in the cage of domesticity. No, he wants her dead. Yeah. But he set off an implant that should take her down. However, all it did was unlock her memories. And she realized that she actually does have feelings for her fiancé, James, and their son, Stevie. More on that in a bit. Those involved are surprised that the implant didn't kill her. Viper actually does get up from the table and walk away by saying, you know what? None of you ever call me again. I'm disappearing. I never want to, But Snapdragon does kind of mention, you can't just go into witness protection. You're friggin' Madam Hydra. We need, as we need to stick together, our best hope is to stick together and then kill her. And so now, everyone on Weeping Lion's page, though, they're still quite pissed at Weeping Lion. So Natasha basically explains to her fiance and that, she can get them out of there. Just, he has to do what she says. She takes down the Hydra squad that Viper sent in as a cleanup crew very quickly and very, very effectively. Yes, she kills them. And then Yelena comes in and saves James and Stevie from a straggler. And she helps with the escape, and then they use an old safe house of Natasha's. And she remembers falling, being caught by Hydra, waking up briefly in a lab and seeing James there. And the next thing she knew, and also that, yes, Stevie was basically a test tube child who was, obviously artificially aged. She does know that Hydra's involved, but she has no idea who else. It could be anyone. Taskmaster, Bullseye, Kingpin, Osborn, Lady Bullseye, Red Skull, Elektra, Madame Mask, Doctor Doom, Kingpin. But she will figure out who's behind it. And Hawkeye and Winter Soldier show up as well. But she has a very serious talk with James as well, basically saying, "Hey, look, you know, this was all set up, but I do know that I care a great deal about you and Stevie, and there's only one way to keep the two of you safe, and that is for you to be as far away from me as possible. Do not, we cannot be a family. We will never, as long as you're with me, you're marked." But they're working on a plan, by which I mean a plan is being discussed while Bucky and Winter Soldier, or while Bucky and Hawkeye argue, and suddenly as James and Stevie go into one of the side rooms to take a nap, a rocket hits the safe house, hitting that particular room. And that is where the issue ends. So yeah, like I said, I'm finding it really hard not to just get, sharpen up the pitchforks and light the torches. Really hard. And the final book for this video, we've got Thor number 10. Where we left off, Donald Blake had trapped Thor in the realm that he was always in when Thor was on Earth gallivanting about. Only the way it is now is a bit damaged, destroyed by the madness of Dr. Donald Blake. So the issue begins in Asgard with Dr. Blake reflecting on his past and reading the King's Book, discovering that he was basically a construct of Odin. His entire existence was thought of by Odin to teach Thor a lesson. And there were others too. Red Norval, Thunderstrike. And he pulls Yarnborn off a wall and then is about to turn the Destroyer on when the Warriors 3 come at him. He throws Yarnborn at them, however, Beta Ray Bill catches it. Bill and Dr. Blake duke it out, and Blake wins. Pulling the power from Bill and adding it to his own. Volstagg then enters the fray, and, well, the Thunder Guard have also joined in, and Dr. Blake makes short work of the Thunder Guard, as well as Volstagg, and even Sif. They survive, don't get me wrong, and he takes Sif's sword, the Sword of the Bifrost, and sends the residents of Asgard elsewhere, while sending Asgard itself potentially elsewhere. The residents of Asgard are in Dimension Blood, the ancestral hunting grounds of the Vampacabra, the farthest place from the fields that they know. Back on Asgard, Donald shaves, cuts his hair, and decides it's good to be king, and decides that it's time to go catch up with some more old friends. Meanwhile, Thor is in the world that Donald Blake used to inhabit, and he comes upon the dying Midgard serpent, Jormungand. He explains to him what's happened. Turns out, the Odin force is not only in Thor, but also in Donald. And the Midgard serpent offered to share his power with Donald. Two shadows to fight the gold and thunder together. But he took all of it. Which is how he discovered the Odin Force within himself. And so with power, both God and dragon inside of him, he went mad. He went power mad. Waking a fury in him unlike anything the Midgard serpent had ever seen. And he goes to see, but it turns out, and while Ben Gartman's been explaining this to Thor, Dr. Blake has been on Earth in a hospital. Turns out he went to go see his old friend, Dr. Jane Foster. And that is where the issue ends. And that's it for this video. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.